Just a question though, because you said Negro, and this may be just a semantics argument, but why not use the word freedman instead of Negro?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you're talking about freedmen, so under Black's law, it says in Roman law, it means one who has been set free from slavery. But in America, it's respecting the Negroes. So even if you say freedmen, you're falling into the form of saying in America, it respects the Negroes. So we look at freedmen as a transition from enslaved to free. Then from freedmen, we are the American. So we're not just freedmen. We are actually American. Freedmen was a status to denote that we had came from chattel slave to free. We were no longer enslaved. But now that we're American and slavery is outlawed, there's no need to say I'm a freedman because I'm an American. You either are a certain American that has that lineage from slavery or you're not. So this is why Obama is an African American. Obama is a Black American, but Obama is not a Negro American or American Negro. Even those words that were true from when Senator Harry Reid told him in the halls of Congress. He said, you're a light-skinned African-American who lacks Negro dialect, meaning that you look Black, but you ain't a Negro. You don't even talk like that. Because as Negroes, we have our own language. It's called Ebonics. We have our own culture. It's called American Negro culture. As we have our own sports, it's called the Negro Leagues. We have our own songs from slavery. It's not called the Freedmen songs. It's called the Negro spirituals. So in understanding how history we were categorized and cataloged, it's very important to know that I'm a free American Negro now. I'm not a freed man because my ancestors didn't come from slavery from my mama and them. Now, my great-great-great-great-grandparents were freedmen, but I'm a descendant of freedmen, as Dr. Darity would say, not a freedman alone. See, I would be a descendant of that. Whereas I'm an American Negro enslaved and free. See, because when I was enslaved, you sold me as a Negro. When I became free, I got my freedom as a Negro. The process upon which enslavement to freedom is called freedman. That status of from slave to free is called freedman. My ancestors were freedmen. I'm a descendant of freedmen, but I am today an American Negro. It was called People versus Hall from the California State Supreme Court, where it was said that there's a wide difference between the two. A Negro may be a Black person, but not every Black person is a Negro. So when we say Negro, in the eyes of the law, it didn't matter whether we were enslaved or free, because as Negroes, we're of that bloodline. This is why when you look up freedmen, again, in Black's Law Dictionary, when you're talking about freedmen, and so to say that I'm a Negro, it encompasses that already. You're just talking about a specific period from when I was an enslaved Negro to when I became a free Negro. That process and the status of it is called freedman. But today, I am an American Negro. This is why so many people, when you look up freedmen, you see the indigenous people are freedmen. They still have a freedmen's, they still identify as those people who were once enslaved by indigenous territories. Those people were called freedmen, and now they're called freedmen back into those indigenous tribes that they come from. You have a lot of people who, under the term and classifications, and this is things that Dr. Darity has spoken on as well, when you incorporate freedmen, it does not speak to specific lineage, which may include non-Negro white people. But when you say Negroes, you're speaking about a lineage of people who specifically came out of slavery, who have paperwork that ties them directly to that slavery, directly to the American Negro atrocities, and all the way to now. We were only changed in 1960. Prior to that, our Universal United Negro College Fund, Negro Bankers, the first NBA was the Negro Bankers Association, the Negro Leagues for our sports, our Negro Council of Negro Women, which is still up today as our governing body of women who are in politics or in government that are Negro women. They are still known as Negro organizations today that are actually for Negro people. So it's very important and vital that our name, even the Negro League's history, I think the president said when Joseph Biden, Sleepy Joe, was saying, that great American Negro, great Satchel Paige, the media, who was always trying to erase Negro, was the ones trying to condemn Joe Biden, saying that he used a term that's outdated. But actually, the president and executive director for the Hall of Fame at the Negro Museum said that it would have been no better word for Joe Biden to have used describing Satchel Paige, because that word allows others in the history books to know this ain't just a black man. This is an American Negro man. This ain't just a black athlete. This is a Negro athlete. And I think as a descendant of a Negro, one who is very proud and open and let everyone know that I'm not just a black man, I'm an American Negro man. That is something to that. And it is a power and a pride to that. That's something that I think people wanted us to kind of get away from, because it almost was fraternal in its own objections. If you even want further proof of that, the book To Go Ahead, How to Sell to the Negro in the 1970s was made because they didn't even know how to appeal to us. They didn't know what a Negro liked, what kind of couture a Negro found fashionable, because we had our own fashion, our own style, our own essence that outsiders was not privy to even knowing, because we were so tight knit. So when we started having integration, allowing ourselves to be kind of diluted, we literally lost those essences of things that we were kind of shielded with by labeling as Negro without any type of disrespect or any type of negative to anyone else, because we built those things on a Negro framework. Again, United Negro College Fund for the furthering of Negro children to go to higher learning, National Council of Negro Women for the furthering of Negro women in politics to have a place to meet, because just because they were women didn't allow them into white circles. So they needed a circle for women that identified them. And just because they were black women didn't mean that they were in black circles. They identified their thing as the National Council of Negro Women, meaning that we weren't just black women, because they had many shades of Negroes. Some that might not even be considered as, quote, black. They would be white passing, but they're Negro women. That's what we hold value to. We hold that sacredness to it. And then also reading these old documents like Special Field Order 15, when it says that Negro is free and must be dealt with as such, it makes it clear that Negro is not just a color. Negro is a people. And that's something that I think also kind of gets muddied in the conversation, because some say Negro is just Spanish for black, when in America we speak English, and in America we have a word for black and it's an adjective. But the word Negro is not an adjective, it's a noun. And that's very important to understand. And that can be found in the Noah Webster's Dictionary on American English. So vastly diasporically different, we don't know if whether you were picked up when you arrived in Charleston, South Carolina, from Africa or from South America or from the Caribbeans. But we knew we were Negroes being sold on this auction block today. So it makes sense that in that moment, encapsulating up to 1865, the ones that made it to 1865, the descendants that have ancestors that we're able to carry forth in society today, that either ran away, that either fought back, that either capitulated, that either listened, that we survived. We're here because they survived, no matter how they survived. The fact that we are here today, we need to be put back in the position where before we were not asking for reparations. And Special Field Orders 15 is the encompassing of all of that. A land that we have that's our own, that is not supposed to have anybody but Negroes in it. So you're talking about, we have many Negro towns, Negro cities. We're talking about Negro states. We're talking about Negro governors. We're talking about Negro bodies. We're talking about the Negro legislator. We have to have this so we don't suffer the hands of non-Negroes, whether they be of the 1865 stock of Americans or those who might have immigrated later. We don't need to suffer the discrimination from them, the conscious or unconscious bias from them, because of their inabilities to understand what position the American Negro is in America. We need our own states, our own legislators, and our own governments, and we need to have the institutions of Special Field Order 15 reinstituted immediately, which is it's not hard at all. A lot of us still call it 40 acres and a mule, when we should be saying we want Special Field Orders 15. Something that you have to recognize, right? When you're talking about the congressional record, Negroes in the Constitution. When you're talking about Negroes, the Freedmen's Bank didn't even survive the test of time, but the Negro Leagues did. The United Negro College Fund did. The National Council of Negro Women did. I don't think calling the Negroes offensive. I think calling non-Negroes is offensive, but there's no offense in saying we're Negro. That's not going to get white people in any harm's way. That is absolutely false notion. The President of the United States recently had said that great Negro pitcher, Satchel Paige, and the President of the Hall of Fame said that he would have not had the president use any other word. So it makes absolute sense that we recognize not only who we are, but what what terms identified our people. It was only in 1960 that Negro was changed over into this black through the form of black revolutionary. But prior to that, we were chose to call ourselves Negroes. Whether you were
Hmm.
white, you called us Negro. Whether you were black, you called us Negro. The thing about it is this: the derogatory term for Negro is Nigger. It's the hard er. It is not Negro. Negro is a non-Negro does not register as offensive. Nigger is. And so understanding that, it is very understood to know that calling me a Negro is not offensive, but calling me a Nigger is. So we can't say that Negro is equal to Nigger. That's not true. See, emotions have to always be put into check, and logic must always supersede emotional. So if I'm going through something and I'm talking to the government, or the government's engaging with me through documents and paperwork, there is a substantial amount of evidence under the Negro identifier for the Negro people, whether you're talking about enslavement, and freedom. When you're talking about freedmen paperwork and freedmen documents, you're talking about a paperwork trail that hasn't even stood the test of time through many situations, through many things. Meaning the Freedmen's Bureau ransacked, raided, shut down, abolished. The Freedmen's Bureau avenues. Some places got their stuff microfilmed, some did not. But my great grandma and my grandma's birth certificate says Negro. My great grandfather and my grandfather's birth certificate says Negro. It is only me and my mom's that say black. So I have a better chance of going to the government as a descendant of an enslaved Negro in America than I do of going as a descendant of a freedman, due to the fact that my paperwork I could bring with me to that government will strictly have me linear from enslavement property all the way to me now as Negro. Whereas I go from freedman, I might have a freedman document. I haven't found any freedman documents in my stuff, but I might have a freedman over here. I might have a freedman over there. And so I see somebody else said that it was a Spanish word. Again, in America, the word black denotes black. Spanish is not the language of America. In America, we speak English. So in America, Negro is not the same as the Spanish-speaking Negro. Negro in America is not an adjective. It is a noun, meaning it is not denoting a color. It's denoting a person, place, or thing. So therefore, when you see black, it is not a noun. It's an adjective. It does not denote a people. It is a color. This is very important because the false teachings that we have been taught is to go through and think that when you say Negro is equal to saying black. But we just mentioned the 1864 California State Supreme Court case, People versus Hall, that said there's a wide difference between the two. A Negro may be a black person, but not every black person is a Negro. That's still true today in our conversations as we talk about in the term of delineation. When I say I'm delineating under the class of blackness, Obama's an African American president. Obama's a black president. Obama is not a Negro president. Obama is not the descendant of the ancestors who built the White House. This is very important because it is important to know that a Negro may be a black person. Obama is not a Negro, though. So we need to make sure that when we're having these conversations, we're doing so with as much knowledge as possible as to how the dynamic works, but with as little emotion as possible as well.